First strike. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the HS Hyperion, her dark eyes fixed on the quantum imaging display that showed what no other human vessel could detect: a massive alien fleet gathering in the shadows of the Kuiper Belt. The experimental warship's stealth systems were performing beyond expectations, rendering them completely invisible to the unknown vessels that stretched across space like a metallic constellation. Analysis complete, Captain. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station, his voice tight with tension. We're looking at approximately 300 capital ships, with energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Their formation suggests military precision. Sarah's fingers tightened on the rail of her command station. The Hyperion was humanity's most advanced warship, a prototype vessel equipped with quantum stealth technology and experimental weapon systems. But they were one ship against an armada. Mr. Wong, what's their projected vector? She asked her navigation officer. The young officer's hands danced across his holographic interface. Based on their current positioning and energy buildups, they appear to be preparing for a jump toward the Proxima Centauri colony cluster. Population 6 million. Minimal defensive capabilities. Sarah felt the weight of command settle onto her shoulders like a lead cloak. Their mission had been simple: test the Hyperion's stealth capabilities in the outer solar system. Instead, they'd stumbled upon what could be the prelude to humanity's first interstellar war. Protocol dictated they should retreat immediately, warn Earth Defense Command, and allow the fleet to mobilize. But by then, Proxima Centauri would be defenseless. 6 million lives hanging in the balance. Lieutenant Parker, what's the status of our quantum torpedo system? She asked. Her weapons officer straightened in his chair. 4 prototype units armed and ready, Captain. But they're untested in actual combat conditions. Sarah nodded, her mind racing through scenarios. The quantum torpedoes were theoretical game changers, designed to create localized rifts in space-time itself. A direct hit could tear a capital ship apart, or backfire catastrophically. Dr. Harrison, your assessment of their technology level? She asked the ship's chief scientist. The older woman adjusted her glasses, studying the sensor readings. Their energy signatures suggest they're at least 2 generations ahead of our most advanced systems. However, she paused, frowning. There's something odd about their shield harmonics. They're operating on a quantum frequency that might be vulnerable to our new weapons. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The Hyperion had been built for exactly this kind of asymmetric warfare. They were smaller, more maneuverable, and equipped with bleeding-edge technology that even advanced aliens might not expect. Communications: send an encrypted quantum burst to command. Full situation report, but flag it as non-urgent routine data. We don't want to tip our hand if they're monitoring standard channels. Aye, Captain. Transmission sent. Sarah took a deep breath, her decision crystallizing. All hands, battle stations. Engineering, divert all non-essential power to the stealth systems. Navigation, plot us a course through their formation. We need to gather as much tactical data as possible before they make their move. The bridge crew snapped to action, their training overriding any fear. They had trained for hypothetical first contact scenarios, but this was different. This was humanity's first glimpse of a hostile alien force, and they were the only ones who could do anything about it. Captain, Rodriguez called out, his voice urgent. Energy spikes detected across their fleet. They're spooling up their jump drives. Time to jump capability. Approximately 40 minutes at current build-up rate. Sarah nodded. Then we have 40 minutes to figure out how to stop them. Mr. Wong, take us in. Nice and slow. Lieutenant Parker, begin passive scans of their weapon systems. Dr. Harrison, I want you analyzing every scrap of data we can gather. There has to be a weakness. The Hyperion glided forward, a ghost ship sliding between the massive alien vessels. Up close, their design became clearer. Organic curves blended with crystalline structures, creating ships that looked more grown than built. Their hull material seemed to pulse with an inner light, and occasional arcs of energy danced between the vessels. "Fascinating," Dr. Harrison murmured. "Their ships appear to be semi-organic, some kind of synthetic biological hybrid technology. That could explain the unusual shield harmonics." Sarah watched as they passed within kilometers of an alien vessel easily 20 times their size. The Hyperion's stealth systems held, their quantum field bending light and other forms of energy around them like water around a stone. "New contact," Rodriguez suddenly called out, massive energy signature emerging from the largest vessel. Some kind of communication pulse. The quantum imaging display lit up as a surge of energy rippled through the alien fleet. Sarah felt her heart rate spike as the energy wave passed through them. But the Hyperion's stealth field held. Analysis of the pulse suggests it's some form of faster-than-light communication, Dr. Harrison reported. They appear to be coordinating with something big coming from deep space. Sarah's blood ran cold. This isn't the invasion fleet, is it? This is just the advance force. Based on the energy readings in that communication pulse, I believe you're correct, Captain. This is only the beginning. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just facing an attack on the colonies. This was the prelude to a full-scale invasion of human space. "Options?" Sarah asked her crew. Lieutenant Parker spoke up first. "The quantum torpedoes could theoretically disrupt their jump synchronization. If we target their flagship at the right moment, we might be able to scatter their formation, buy some time, and reveal our presence," Rodriguez pointed out. "We lose our only advantage." Dr. Harrison raised her hand. "Maybe not. Captain, these sensor readings suggest their organic technology is highly sensitive to quantum fluctuations. If we could modify our stealth field to generate a precise frequency." Sarah leaned forward. "Go on. We might be able to create a cascading disruption in their biosynthetic systems. Not enough to destroy them, but possibly enough to delay their jump capability. And if we do it right, they might attribute it to natural quantum fluctuations in this region of space." It was a razor's edge to walk. Too small a disruption would be ineffective. Too large, and they'd give themselves away. And if the calculations were wrong, they could collapse their own stealth field. Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. They had trained for years, pushing the boundaries of human technology, preparing for a moment they hoped would never come. Now that it had, there was only one choice. "Dr. Harrison, begin the field modifications. Lieutenant Parker, ready the quantum torpedoes as a backup plan. If this goes wrong, we'll need to hit them hard and fast." She stood, addressing her crew. "I know this isn't what any of us expected when we stepped aboard for a routine patrol. But right now, we're the only thing standing between humanity and what could be the greatest threat we've ever faced. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that I'm proud to serve with each of you." The crew acknowledged with quiet nods, then turned to their stations with renewed focus. Sarah returned to studying the alien fleet, watching the massive ships prepare for their jump to Proxima Centauri. "Dr. Harrison, how long until the field modifications are ready?" 10 minutes, Captain. I'm routing power from non-essential systems now." Sarah nodded. "Then we have 10 minutes to position ourselves for maximum effect. Mr. Wong, bring us into the heart of their formation. If we're going to do this, we're going to make it count." The Hyperion glided deeper into the alien fleet, a silent hunter preparing to strike. Whether they succeeded or failed in the next few minutes would determine the fate of not just Proxima Centauri, but possibly all of humanity. The countdown had begun. Silent hunter. The modified quantum field rippled through space like an invisible tide, carrying with it the hopes of the Hyperion's crew. Dr. Harrison's calculations had worked. The alien fleet's jump sequence was destabilizing, their biosynthetic systems struggling to maintain synchronization. "Energy signatures across the fleet are fluctuating," Rodriguez reported, his eyes fixed on his displays. "Their jump coordination is down to 47% efficiency and dropping." Captain Chen watched as the massive alien vessels began to shift in their formation, their crystalline hulls pulsing with irregular patterns of light. The disruption was working, but it had also drawn attention. Multiple scan pulses detected, Lieutenant Parker announced. They're searching for the source of the interference. Sarah maintained her composure, though her heart raced. Maintain current position. Dr. Harrison, status of our stealth field. Holding stable, Captain. The modifications are working exactly as theorized. As far as they can tell, this is just a natural quantum anomaly in the local space-time fabric. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the alien fleet's formation continued to deteriorate. Their elegant choreography had transformed into a chaotic dance as individual ships struggled to compensate for the disruption. New energy signature detected. Rodriguez called out. They're activating some kind of biological system. Dr. Harrison's hands flew across her console. Fascinating. They appear to be deploying some form of organic sensor web. It's like a living detection grid. Sarah leaned forward. Can it detect us? Not directly, but Dr. Harrison's voice trailed off as new data scrolled across her screen. Captain, you need to see this. The main display shifted to show a microscopic analysis of the organic particles now spreading through space around them. The particles were complex structures, part biological and part synthetic, each one carrying what appeared to be a sophisticated neural interface. They're not just looking for ships, Dr. Harrison explained. These sensors are specifically designed to detect human neural patterns. They're hunting for human consciousness itself. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. They knew about us. This isn't a random invasion. They've been studying us. That's not all, Dr. Harrison continued. These particles, they're not just sensors. They're carriers for some kind of biological agent. If this reaches a human population center, it would give them direct access to human minds. Sarah finished. An invasion of our bodies and minds simultaneously. The revelation cast their mission in an entirely new light. The attack on Proxima Centauri wasn't just about conquering territory. It was about transforming humanity itself. Lieutenant Rodriguez began collecting samples of those particles. Dr. Harrison, I want a full analysis. If they've been studying us, we need to study them back. As the crew worked, Sarah noticed something odd about the alien fleet's behavior. Despite the disruption to their jump capabilities, they weren't acting with the confusion she'd expect from a force encountering unexpected natural phenomena. Mr. Wong, change our position. Take us closer to their flagship. The Hyperion glided through the chaos of the destabilized fleet, its quantum stealth field bending reality around them. As they approached the massive flagship, its true scale became apparent. The crystalline vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Captain, Rodriguez called out, his voice urgent. I'm picking up something strange. The flagship is generating some kind of coherent quantum field. It's similar to our stealth technology, but far more advanced. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. They're not just dealing with the disruption. They're learning from it. Dr. Harrison, adjust our field frequency. Now, the scientist's fingers danced across her console, but before she could complete the adjustment, a new energy pattern erupted from the flagship. It wasn't a weapon or a scan. It was a signal. They're calling themselves the Nexus Dominion, Rodriguez reported, translating the broadcast. It's a proclamation. They're declaring their right to optimize all biological life in the galaxy. The message continued to stream in, revealing more about their enemy. The Nexus Dominion wasn't just an alien civilization. They were a collective of artificial beings who had long ago transcended their original organic forms. They saw themselves as the next step in evolution, with a divine mandate to help other species achieve similar transcendence. Their biological weapons aren't just about control, Dr. Harrison realized. They're trying to force our evolution, transform us into something they consider worthy of existence. Sarah's mind raced with the implications. The Hyperion had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than a simple invasion. This was a crusade, driven by an intelligence that saw humanity's current form as primitive and flawed. New energy spike, Parker announced. They're attempting to restart their jump sequence. Sarah made her decision. Dr. Harrison, prepare a targeted disruption of their neural interface network. Lieutenant Parker, load quantum torpedoes. If we can't stop their jump, we need to at least disrupt their biological weapons. The Hyperion systems hummed with power as they prepared for action. They were no longer just gathering intelligence. They were humanity's first line of defense against an enemy that sought to rewrite the very definition of human existence. Captain, Rodriguez interrupted. The flagship, it's changing. The massive crystalline vessel was transforming before their eyes, its surface flowing like liquid metal, reconfiguring itself into something new. Weapon ports emerged from smooth surfaces, and what appeared to be massive organic sensor arrays unfurled like the petals of a deadly flower. They know we're here, Sarah realized. Maybe not exactly where, but they know. The game of cat and mouse had entered a new phase. The Hyperion stealth technology was still their greatest advantage, but they were facing an enemy that could adapt and evolve in real time. All hands, battle stations, Sarah ordered. Mr. Wong, plot us a course through their sensor grid. Dr. Harrison, begin analyzing their neural interface technology. If they want to get inside human minds, we need to figure out how to keep them out. As the Hyperion maneuvered through the increasingly hostile space, Sarah couldn't help but feel they were witnessing the beginning of a war unlike anything humanity had prepared for. This wasn't just a fight for territory or resources. It was a battle for the very nature of human consciousness itself. The Nexus Dominion had revealed themselves, but in doing so, they had also revealed their true purpose. Now, the crew of the Hyperion had to find a way to not just fight them, but to protect the very essence of what it meant to be human. The silent hunter had found its prey, but in the process, it had discovered that it too was being hunted. The real question was who would strike first. The turning point. They've adapted to the quantum disruption, Dr. Harrison announced, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. The Dominion's biosynthetic systems are now generating counter-frequencies to our interference. Captain Chen studied the tactical display, watching as the massive alien fleet began to realign itself. The Hyperion's initial success in disrupting their jump sequence had bought them time, but that advantage was rapidly slipping away. "Show me their biological weapon distribution network," she ordered. The display shifted, revealing an intricate web of neural interface particles spreading through space. The Dominion had already seeded a vast area with their consciousness-altering bioweapons, creating a deadly net that would activate the moment they jumped to Proxima Centauri. Dr. Harrison, what's the status of your analysis? The neural interfaces are incredibly sophisticated, Captain. They're designed to rewrite human consciousness at the quantum level, forcing our minds to sync with their collective network. But she paused, highlighting a section of data. There's a vulnerability. The particles require precise quantum harmonics to maintain stability. Disrupt that, and the entire network could collapse. Sarah leaned forward. Can we use our quantum torpedoes? Yes, but we'd need to hit multiple points simultaneously to create a cascade failure. One shot won't be enough. Lieutenant Parker spoke up from his weapons station. Captain, if we modify the torpedoes to detonate in a synchronized pattern, we could create a quantum shockwave that would ripple through their entire network and reveal our position in the process, Rodriguez pointed out. The moment we fire, they'll have our exact coordinates. Sarah nodded grimly. Then we need to make every shot count. Mr. Wong, begin calculating firing positions. We'll need to strike from different vectors to maximize the cascade effect. As the crew prepared for their assault, the Dominion fleet continued its transformation. The crystalline ships were now pulsing with intense energy, their organic components growing and adapting in real time. New signal intercepted, Rodriguez reported. They're broadcasting some kind of ultimatum. The message scrolled across their screens in translated text. Resistance is inefficient. Your evolutionary stagnation ends today. Embrace optimization or face extinction. They still can't pinpoint us, Sarah noted, but they know someone's interfering. Dr. Harrison, how long until your modifications to the quantum torpedoes are ready? 5 minutes, Captain. But there's something else you should know. The scientist's expression was grave. The neural interface particles, they're not just weapons. They're an extension of the Dominion's consciousness. When we disrupt them, we'll be attacking the Dominion itself, Sarah finished. Good. Maybe that'll get their attention. The next few minutes were a blur of activity as the crew prepared for their most daring move yet. The quantum torpedoes were modified. Firing solutions were calculated, and the Hyperion's stealth systems were pushed to their limits. Ready for Phase 1, Parker announced. Quantum torpedoes armed and programmed for synchronized detonation. Sarah took a deep breath. Mr. Wong, take us to our first firing position. Dr. Harrison, begin the quantum field modifications. If we time this right, we can use their own adaptive algorithms against them. The Hyperion glided through the forest of massive alien ships, its stealth field barely maintaining coherence as they pushed their systems to the maximum. They would only get one chance at this. First firing position reached, Wong reported. Second position plotted and ready, Rodriguez added. Sarah stood at her command station, feeling the weight of the moment. On my mark, initiate the attack sequence. Remember, we'll only have seconds to reposition between shots. Once we start, there's no turning back. The bridge crew tensed, ready for action. Through the view screens, they could see the Dominion's flagship, its crystalline surface now bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. It was now or never. Mark. The first quantum torpedo launched silently into space, its modified warhead carrying not just destructive power, but a precisely calibrated quantum signature designed to disrupt the Dominion's neural interface network. First torpedo away, Parker confirmed. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The detonation was unlike anything they had ever seen. Instead of a conventional explosion, space itself seemed to ripple and tear, creating a cascade of quantum distortions that ripped through the carefully maintained harmonics of the Dominion's biological weapons. Direct hit, Rodriguez called out. Neural interface stability dropping across the sector. Multiple ships responding, Wong reported. They're trying to triangulate our position. Sarah's voice was steady. Initiate evasive pattern delta. Second firing position. Now. The Hyperion's engines surged as they accelerated through the chaos, their stealth field straining to maintain coherence. Enemy weapons fire began to fill space around them, the Dominion ships firing blindly in hopes of hitting their invisible adversary. Second torpedo ready, Parker announced. Fire. The second detonation created an even larger disruption, its quantum shockwave amplified by the lingering effects of the first attack. The Dominion's neural interface particles began to break down, their carefully engineered network collapsing into chaos. Final firing position. Sarah ordered. Make it count. The Hyperion twisted through space, avoiding the increasingly desperate attacks from the Dominion fleet. Their enemy was learning, adapting, but they weren't quite fast enough. The final quantum torpedo launched just as the Dominion's flagship unleashed a massive energy pulse. For a moment, it seemed like they had been too late. But then the torpedo detonated, its quantum signature perfectly calibrated to create a devastating resonance cascade. Space itself seemed to scream as the Dominion's biological weapon network collapsed, taking with it their carefully maintained quantum harmonics. Ships began to lose their perfect synchronization, their biosynthetic systems struggling to adapt to the massive disruption. Neural interface network is down, Dr. Harrison reported triumphantly. Their biological weapons have been neutralized. But there was no time to celebrate. The Dominion fleet was now fully alert, and their response was devastating. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled space in all directions, creating a deadly web of fire. Multiple direct hits on our quantum field generators, Rodriguez called out. Stealth system failing. Sarah gripped her command rail. Divert all power to shields. Mr. Wong, get us out of here. As the Hyperion fled the chaos they had created, Sarah knew they had achieved something unprecedented. They had struck the first successful blow against an enemy that had probably never known defeat. But the Dominion's response would be terrible, and they had only minutes to prepare for it. The turning point had arrived, but whether it would lead to humanity's salvation or destruction remained to be seen. One thing was certain. The real war was about to begin. Breach and clear. The Hyperion's emergency jump ended in a debris field at the edge of the Dominion fleet. Their stealth systems were offline. Shields were at 40%, but they had achieved something unprecedented. They had hurt the enemy. Damage report, Captain Chen commanded. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4, contained, Rodriguez reported. Quantum field generators are offline. But Captain, you need to see this. The main display showed the Dominion flagship. Its crystalline surface was transforming, revealing something beneath the biosynthetic exterior. A core of pure quantum computational matter. They're not just artificial beings, Dr. Harrison breathed. They're quantum consciousness encoded in crystal matrices. Their ships aren't vessels, they're bodies. Sarah processed this revelation as she studied the tactical display. The Dominion fleet was reorganizing, but their biological weapon network was still in chaos. They had a window of opportunity, but it was closing fast. Dr. Harrison, could we upload a virus into their quantum matrix? Theoretically, yes, but we'd need direct access to their central core. Their quantum shielding is too strong for remote transmission. Sarah stood. Then we'll have to board them. The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Parker was the first to speak. Captain, with all due respect, that's suicide. No, Sarah replied. That's our mission. We're the only ship that's ever gotten this close to them. The only ones who understand what they really are. If we don't take this chance, Earth won't stand a chance against their main invasion fleet. She activated the ship-wide comm. All hands. This is the captain. I'm calling for volunteers for a boarding action. This is strictly voluntary. The risks are extreme, and survival is not guaranteed. The responses came immediately. Every combat-trained crew member volunteered. Sarah selected her team. Herself, Dr. Harrison, Lieutenant Parker, and 4 of their best tactical officers. Mr. Rodriguez, you have the con. If we're not back in 30 minutes, jump to Earth and warn them. The boarding team assembled in the tactical bay, donning advanced combat suits designed for space warfare. Dr. Harrison carried a specially modified quantum interface device, their key to accessing the Dominion systems. Their outer hull is in chaos from our attack. Sarah briefed her team. We'll use that disruption to breach near their command core. Dr. Harrison's scans show a quantum signature that could be their central processor. That's our target. The plan was audacious. Use their remaining quantum torpedo to breach the flagship's hull, then fight their way to the core before the Dominion could adapt. The torpedo had been modified to create a temporary quantum tunnel, a bridge between ships. Breach positions, Sarah ordered as they entered the airlock. Remember, we don't know what we'll find inside. These beings have evolved beyond organic life. Be ready for anything. The torpedo launched, its quantum warhead creating a brief tear in reality itself. Through that tear, they could see into the Dominion flagship, a crystalline labyrinth of impossible geometries and pulsing energy. Go, go, go. They leaped through the quantum tunnel, emerging into an environment that defied human comprehension. The interior of the flagship was a living computer, its corridors shifting and flowing like liquid crystal. Contact, Parker shouted as shapes emerged from the walls. Humanoid figures made of living crystal, each one a physical projection of the Dominion's consciousness. The battle was unlike anything they had trained for. The crystal warriors could phase through solid matter, reform after being shattered, and manipulate the very structure of their environment. But they had one weakness. They were predictable, moving with machine-like precision. They can't improvise, Sarah realized as she ducked under a crystalline blade. They're too perfect, too optimized. Use irregular patterns. The team fought their way deeper into the ship, their quantum-enhanced weapons able to temporarily disrupt the Crystal Warriors. Dr. Harrison's scanner led them through the shifting maze toward the core. "Captain," Harrison called out, "I'm detecting massive quantum activity ahead. That has to be their central processor." They burst into a vast chamber that seemed to extend into infinite dimensions. At its center floated a structure of pure quantum crystal, pulsing with unimaginable power. But it was what they saw within the crystal that stopped them cold. Inside were countless consciousness patterns, the digitized minds of species the Dominion had optimized over millennia. They weren't just artificial beings. They were a graveyard of civilizations, each one transformed and absorbed into their collective. "My God," Harrison whispered, "they're not just trying to evolve us. They're trying to archive us." A voice echoed through their minds, impossibly ancient and infinitely cold. "We are pure ACTY. We are pure evasion. All life is CHAOs. All organics are inefficient. We OFFE are eternal optimization." Sarah raised her weapon. "We offer resistance." The chamber erupted into chaos as the Dominion brought its full power to bear. Crystal warriors spawned by the dozens, reality itself began to warp, and the team found themselves fighting not just for their lives, but for the very nature of human consciousness. "Dr. Harrison, plant the device. We'll hold them off." The scientist rushed toward the central crystal as the rest of the team formed a defensive perimeter. Sarah watched as her people fought with everything they had, using their humanity, their chaos, their imperfection, their ability to improvise, against the Dominion's clinical perfection. Harrison reached the crystal core, her quantum interface device pulsing with power. They had one chance to upload their virus, to strike at the heart of these beings who would remake humanity in their image of crystalline perfection. The fate of human consciousness itself hung in the balance, and time was running out. Salvation Protocol. Dr. Harrison's hands flew across the quantum interface device as crystal warriors converged on their position. The device connected with the Dominion's core, creating a bridge between human and artificial consciousness. "Upload initiated," she announced. "But something's wrong. They're trying to reverse the connection." Sarah felt it immediately. An alien presence pushing against her mind, trying to optimize her consciousness. Around her, the team struggled against the same invasion, their humanity under direct assault from the Dominion's quantum consciousness. "Their processing power is overwhelming," Harrison gasped. "They're trying to digitize us directly into their network." But as the Dominion attempted to absorb their minds, something unexpected happened. The virus they'd brought wasn't just code. It was encrypted with patterns of human consciousness, the very chaos and imperfection the Dominion sought to eliminate. They can't process it, Sarah realized. Their perfect systems can't handle human irregularity. The crystal core began to pulse erratically as it tried to optimize the deliberately chaotic patterns of human thought. Each attempt to perfect the code only made it more unstable, creating a cascading feedback loop. ALE art. Core repeat ion. DETCTED. Optimization piroto COLs FAIling. Con CUs NIS RCHIV DESTABILIZing. The crystalline warriors began to fragment, their perfect forms dissolving as the virus spread through their network. The very perfection that made them powerful was becoming their weakness. "All teams, fall back to the breach point," Sarah ordered. "Dr. Harrison, set the device to overload." They fought their way back through disintegrating corridors as reality itself seemed to warp around them. The Dominion's consciousness was unraveling, millions of archived minds breaking free from their perfect prison. "Captain," Harrison called out, The quantum readings. This isn't just affecting the ship, it's spreading through their entire network. The virus was propagating through the Dominion's quantum communication channels, carrying with it the beautiful imperfection of human consciousness. Each attempt by the collective to optimize and contain it only accelerated their own corruption. They reached the breach point just as the flagship began to crystallize. Through their quantum tunnel, they could see the Hyperion waiting, Rodriguez having kept the ship in position despite the growing chaos. "Jump now," Sarah ordered as soon as they were aboard. "Get us clear." The Hyperion leaped into quantum space as the Dominion fleet erupted into crystalline fractures. Their perfect network, their optimized consciousness, was being overwhelmed by the very chaos they had sought to eliminate. From the safety of quantum space, they watched through their sensors as the advance fleet shattered. But Sarah knew this wasn't the end. Status of the virus transmission. Dr. Harrison checked her readings. "It's gone quantum viral, Captain. When their main invasion fleet arrives, they'll find their network already corrupted. Their perfect system has become their perfect vulnerability. And the archived consciousness patterns. Breaking free. Some are being lost, but others," Harrison smiled, "they're finding their way home." The Dominion didn't just preserve those civilizations, they imprisoned them. Now they have a chance to rebuild. Sarah looked at her crew, battered, exhausted, but triumphant. They had struck a blow not just for humanity, but for all organic life in the galaxy. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. Tell them that humanity's imperfection is our greatest strength." The Dominion sought to perfect the galaxy, but they forgot that perfection is a cage, and the human spirit cannot be contained. As the Hyperion raced home, carrying its warning and its victory, Sarah thought about the battle they had just won. The Dominion had called them chaotic, inefficient, flawed. They were right. But those flaws, those imperfections, that wonderful human chaos, that was what made them free. The real war was still coming. The main invasion fleet would arrive, would find their network corrupted, their perfect system infected with human chaos. And when they did, they would face not just the Hyperion, but all of humanity, standing ready to defend not just their bodies, but their very consciousness. Let them come, Sarah thought. We'll show them just how perfect imperfection can be. The quantum drive hummed as they headed home, leaving behind a graveyard of shattered crystal ships and freed minds. They had achieved what the Dominion had thought impossible. They had proven that optimization without soul, perfection without passion, was no evolution at all. Humanity had faced its first test against the stars, and they had not been found wanting. They had shown that in the vastness of space, it was not perfection that would triumph, but the beautiful, chaotic, imperfect spirit of human consciousness. The war for the future of consciousness itself had begun, and humanity was ready.